there are many applications that need to have root privileges in order to do whatever it is they need to do. And there's a mechanism in Linux that will allow that. It's called the set UID, or the SUID bit. When the kernel sees that that attribute is set on a executable, whoever owns that file is the permissions on which that file will be executed, not based on who executed it. So you could be a non-privileged user, you execute something that has the SUID bit set, and it will execute as if it's the owner, which, if it's root, means that it has unfettered access to do whatever it wants, even though it was not run by root. You can imagine this could be a security issue, but when programs are well designed and well written and with the intention of running this way, developers really take responsibility to make sure that it's secure. So when we have applications that need to run with a higher privilege, we want to do our due diligence to make sure that they are in fact secure. This applies for both Windows and Linux, every operating system. They're similar mechanisms. We're going to simulate this using this application that we built. Now, theoretically, we could have done some minor changes to this application so it does not require root to run, but I wanted to show you kind of how the SUID bit works, and you'll see that it'll work without being SUID after we make this change. So the first thing we need to do is we want this program that we created to be owned by root. Oh, whoops, I have to reconnect to my server real quick. Okay, so I want it to, let me start from scratch here. So we want the application that we created to be owned by root. Right now, it's owned by student. That's how I logged into my Linux machine. That's how I created that file. So root doesn't own it. So the first step is make root the owner of that executable file. Now that root is the owner of that file, we're going to add the set UID bit. So we use the chmod command to do that, just as if we were changing permissions, but we're going to add an attribute. So we're going to make it user plus s. The s is what sets the set UID bit. And then I'm going to tell it I want to do that on, bin wttr. So now I should see that set UID bit is now enabled. I can check with the ls command. And there's a whole bunch of files in here, right? But what I'm looking for is that wttr file. There it is right there, and you can see that it is set with an S right here. That's what we just set, the set UID bit. Notice that it shows it to me in red, right? It's basically warning me, saying, hey, this file has some pretty elevated privileges. It's got the set UID bit. Likewise, the umount command, it's the same thing, right? There are other commands that will have that set. Sudo su, right? New group. So you'll find other things in here that really have the same permissions. The password command, for example. The password command simply would not work if it didn't have root permissions, because when you set your password, something has to go and change the shadow password file with your new password, the new hash. So it has to have root privileges to do that. So certain applications just need to have that, just to make sure that they're secure if we're going to enable that. But now that we've run this, you'll notice if I use whoami, I'm definitely logged in as student right now. I definitely don't have permissions to do things like write to the var wttr directory. That directory is not owned by me, it's owned by root. So I know I can't log into that. So let's test it. If I run wttr, now if I check the that directory, so we'll do ls-l var wttr. Oops, sorry. There we go. Notice that there's the file that it just created. And you know what I'll do, just to make sure we know it's actually working, we'll remove that file. So it's under var wttr weather. So it's removed. So if I look at that directory, there's nothing in there. Run the wttr command without being sudo, and you'll notice that it was able to successfully write that file now, right? So now it's there. So we know it's working. So the set UID bit, even though I didn't run as sudo, it still worked. It was still able to write to that file, which is owned by root. And you can see that that file, the owner is root, right? So it was written by root. And I can't delete it as student because it's owned by root.